Bitter criticism. Class day. Today I've been late all day on my appointments. I was late for lunch and I'm late here for the sunset. Oh, and there's my boy. Look, forget about. Just 1 second. Look, I mean, that's my boy, the Elanus leucurus, a kite. I'm going to show you. I was tripping, and I got this idea to make oh, I lost it, but there he is. It was nice for the other cell phone. This is a kite. Oh, and there is again. Was not enough. That was excellent to show how this kite steals in the air. Steals in the air. So that's my boy, the Elanus leucurus. Somebody starts. You know, we have an epidemic. We have a look. This is an epidemic, you know. A lot of people calling you. Not all day, but at some point, like in an interval of, I don't know, 5 minutes calling you. What the hell? What the fuck is this? Is people trying to sell you? I guess I'm understanding what this kite likes. This kite likes wind. That sounds logic. And that's it for today. That's it for today. The kite always do this. Starts here, there, and then goes there. Well, that's it. They're my boys today. I put this jersey on Tommy because it's cold. It's been cold. How are you, Tommy? And Milou never will understand, and now is not free anymore. Milou is bothering our homeless friend. Cállate, Milou, silencio. Bitter criticism. I'm going to try to read the. I'm going to run on reading this article from Alexander Dugin, but I just lost too much time. Maybe next time, because I don't have a half an hour. I guess I will do it in half an hour. I'm going to read Russia Today, just a couple of articles about the war in Ukraine, about the future of mankind. And here we go. Prosecutors seeking death penalty for suspected CEO killer. A beautiful guy, Luigi Mangione. A hero for this page, a hero for this channel. Rich people are not people. Rich people are a disease, a human disease. Rich people are society, human cancer. I'm going to read this from Russia Today. Forbidden news for the free world. April 1st, prosecutors seeking death penalty for suspected CEO killer. Luigi Mangione has been charged with gunning down a health insurance boss in New York. He's a hero. Luigi Mangione attends a hearing at Manhattan Criminal Court on February 21, 2025 in New York. The photographer is Stephen Hirsch from Getty Images. U.S. prosecutors have asked for the death penalty for Luigi Mangione, a man charged with killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Quote, Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of 2 young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. End quote. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement on Tuesday. Maybe today. Quote, after careful consideration, I have directed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty in this case as we carried out President Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again, she added. According to the prosecution, Mangione stalked Thompson and eventually shot him on a Manhattan street on December 4, 2024. Quote, the murder was an act of political violence, Bondi said. Who knows, I guess Mangione is a hero. Police arrest Mangione in Altona, Pennsylvania on December 9 after an intense manhunt. Mangione reportedly wrote a short manifesto expressing his frustration with the U.S. healthcare system. Quote, frankly, this parasite simply had it coming. They continue to abuse our country for an immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. End quote. He wrote, according to journalist Ken Klippenstein. In January, President Donald Trump directed the Department of Justice to pursue the death penalty for, quote, for all crimes of a severity damaging its use. Of a severity demanding its use, end quote. Quote, capital punishment is an essential tool for deterring and punishing those who will commit the most heinous crimes and acts of lethal violence against American citizens, end quote, the president wrote in his executive order. I'm going to read everything related to this. Read more. Luigi Mangione pleads not guilty to murder of CEO. December. Oh, I didn't read this. Is a This is a medium-sized news. I guess I'm going to read it. Luigi Mangione pleads not guilty to murder of CEO. December 24, 2024. This is being 4 months ago. The American man charged with killing the head of United Health appeared in court on Monday. Luigi Mangione in the Manhattan Criminal Court. And the photograph. Luigi Mangione has pledged not guilty to murdering the CEO of health insurance giant United Health, Brian Thompson, as he was arraigned in a New York court on Monday. Mangione faces multiple state and federal charges, including first-degree murder committed as an act of terrorism. Maybe I'm a terrorist too. Saying all the things. That's why I'm always saying this is forbidden news for the free world. So there's no freedom. You cannot express your opinion. Mangione faces multiple state and federal charges, including first-degree murder committed as an act of terrorism. If found guilty of all charges, he could face death penalty. Quote, in its most basic terms, this was a killing that was intended to evoke terror. End quote. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said last week. Mangione's lawyer, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, argued that her client was, quote, being prejudiced by some statements that are being made by government officials, end quote. She accused New York Mayor Eric Adams and the police of using Mangione as, quote unquote, political fodder. I don't know what's that, fodder. Thompson was gunned down outside a Manhattan hotel on December 4th. The discharged shell casings and bullets found at the scene had the words, quote unquote, deny, depose, and delay written on them, apparently in reference to the practice of denying health insurance payouts to clients. Oh yeah, I guess this is wonderful. I guess Luigi Mangione is a wonderful human being. Mangione was detained several days later at a McDonald's restaurant in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after a customer recognized the suspect from the images released by police. The New York Police Department said Mangione had a gun and suppressor, quote, consistent with the weapon used in the murder, end quote. A manifesto attributed to Mangione and shared by the media criticizes healthcare, United Health, and the American healthcare system as a whole as rife with, quote unquote, corruption and greed. The case has reignited public debate about the predatory practices of health insurers in the US and the toll it takes on patients. Some officials have expressed concerns over the praise and sympathy Mangione has received on social media. Some officials have expressed concerns over the praise and sympathy. I guess Mangione should have taken a flight to Russia. That's it. Or China, who knows? I'm sad about Mangione's fate. Yeah, I'm going to read the very last one from months ago. December 17, 2024. Alleged CEO killer charged with murder. Luigi Mangione could face life in prison if found guilty of killing United Healthcare's Brian Thompson. Luigi Mangione is led from the Blair County courthouse after an extradition hearing in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, December 10, 2024. No, that's it. I'm going I'm going to see what's new today. Well, Mangione is looking good, stoically. UK residents threatened with prison for Russia links. Progress emerging in US talks. Lavrov. Of course, he's talking about Ukraine. Italy calls Le Pen sentence a blow to democracy. Le Pen conviction. How France's courts keep sidelining the establishment's political rivals. West European states' Russian assets stay frozen. I'm going to read this from first. China invites India to a dragon elephant tango. What? Dragon elephant tango. April 1st. They love each other. China invites India to a dragon elephant tango. President Xi Jinping has called for Beijing and New Delhi to work more closely following a period of strained relations. What a misery! Look, can you hear these trucks? What a terrible misery! Noisy trucks. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday called for China and India to strengthen their cooperation, comparing their relationship to a quote-unquote dragon elephant dance. The statement came as the two countries marked the 75th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relations, with presidents of both nations exchanging congratulatory messages. She pointed out that China and India are both ancient civilizations, major developing countries, and key members of the global south, with both currently at a crucial stage in their modernization efforts. According to an official statement released by Beijing. I guess Russia Today take this paragraph from CGTN or vice versa because it's the same paragraph. Quote, the development of China-India relations demonstrates that it is the right choice for China and India to be partners of mutual achievement and realize the dragon elephant tango, which fully serves the fundamental interests of both countries and their peoples, she said. The Chinese leader also expressed his commitment to jointly maintain peace and stability in mutual border regions. The statement quoted Indian President Murmu, suggesting that a, quote, stable, predictable and friendly bilateral relationship between the two nations that are, quote, home to 1/3 of the world's population, end quote, will benefit both countries and the world. Earlier in the day, Chinese Ambassador Chu Fei-hong told the Global Times that the ties between the two countries are, quote, at a crucial stage, end quote, and that Beijing is, quote, willing to work with the Indian side to strengthen practical cooperation in trade and other areas, and to import more Indian products that are well suited to the Chinese market, end quote. Quote, we also welcome more Indian enterprises to cross the Himalayas and seek opportunities for cooperation in China, sharing the dividends of China's development, end quote, he stated. The remarks come against the backdrop of efforts by the two nations to reset ties after the 2020 Galwan Valley clash along the disputed Himalayan border, in which soldiers from both sides were killed. After extended military and diplomatic discussions, New Delhi and Beijing announced in October last year that they had reached an agreement on disengagement from areas of tension and will work towards normalizing their relations. The announcement was made on the eve of the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia, where Xi and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a comprehensive bilateral meeting, marking their first such engagement in almost 5 years. Modi, in a recent podcast with Lex Friedman stressed the importance of dialogue over discord, acknowledging that differences between neighboring countries are inevitable but should not be allowed to escalate into disputes. The latest statements also come as both India and China weigh the potential impact of reciprocal tariffs that US President Donald Trump vowed will come into effect on April 2nd, which means tomorrow. You know what I thought about this a war between China and India, a hypothetical war between China and India, that China, imagine if China and India will more poor than they are, much poorer, so much poorer. They should buy weapons from the US. So that's the US deal. That's the US business in the world, selling weapons. But that's not going to happen. Fortunately, maybe China. What I also think about it is that maybe China has I believe that I strongly believe in communism, whatever communism is. It could be Chinese communism, why not? Is the answer for the world. Yeah, it's the answer for Africa, it's the answer for South America, and so on. New Delhi is considering allowing further inflows from China as a countermeasure to the upcoming tariffs. Indian Express reported last month, while China has hit back at the US, suggesting that, quote, if war is what the US wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we are ready to fight till the end. That's what China says. And there's another. This is another thought I had. Maybe China definitely will win World War III. That's it. Maybe China will win the war. Maybe Russia and China and India will win any war, and that's it. The West is done. You can follow me. You can see my posts on Instagram. West is done. That's me. You will see Vladimir Putin riding a bear. New Delhi's response to Trump's tariff pressure was rather cautious. India and the US conducted the first round of trade agreement talks last week, stating that both nations aim to finalize the first tranche of the deal by fall 2025. The question is, the US want India and China to be poor forever, poor and cheap, and do poor cheap labor. I'm going to read just two more. April 1st, West European states' Russian assets stay frozen. The EU should also apply more sanctions on Russia, the bloc's top diplomat has said. And there's a photograph from Kaja Kallas, not so bad, not so ugly. The EU's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, speaks to the press in Madrid. Russian assets frozen over the Ukraine conflict should remain immobilized until the hostilities are over, a group of EU nations and the UK said on Monday, calling for additional sanctions on Moscow. The joint statement by the EU's top diplomat Kaja Kallas and foreign ministers of Germany, France, Italy, Poland, Spain, and the UK issued new threats against Russia and expressed readiness to, quote, apply further pressure on Russia using all tools available, including by adopting new sanctions, end quote. Quote, we reiterate that Russia's assets should remain immobilized until Russia ceases its war of aggression against Ukraine and compensates it for the damage caused. I'm going to read again. We reiterate that, quote, we reiterate that Russia's assets should remain immobilized until Russia ceases its war of aggression against Ukraine and compensates it for the damage caused. That's bullshit. End quote. The document reads, referring to the roughly $300 billion. That's, well, a hell too much. Give me 1 billion, please. I want to be a millionaire. In assets belonging to Russia's central bank that had been frozen by the West since 2022. The assets are primarily EU, US, and UK government bonds held in a Brussels-based securities depository. I guess I will never be allowed to enter Belgium, isn't it? Securities depository. Moscow has called the asset freeze theft. Definitely. You know, yeah, I guess this war is a forever war. Maybe Ukrainian people will evacuate Ukraine for good. Maybe that's already happening. The statement comes after European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen refuses to consider lifting sanctions on Russia as long as the Ukraine conflict continues. She also rejected a US-Russia proposed maritime truce between Moscow and Kiev in the Black Sea, put forward by the administration of US President Donald Trump. Okay, as you can see, Ukraine is a Muppet state. It's a Muppet state, absolutely. During recent talks in Riyadh, Moscow and Washington discussed reviving the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which will potentially include the removal of Western sanctions on Russian agriculture and fertilizer exports. Speaking of French broadcaster LCI, on Friday, von der Leyen insisted the restrictions, quote, will remain in effect until a just and lasting peace is established in Ukraine, end quote. After the conflict is over, the quote-unquote sanctions might be removed, she added. But, you know, the question is, Russia will win the war. Ursula von der Leyen is stupid, I guess. The EU stance on the potential revival of the grain deal clearly shows the bloc does not want to contribute to the, quote, efforts that Moscow and Washington are making, end quote, towards peace. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, quote, the lifting of sanctions from our banking institution, which deals with settlements related to agricultural products, is an integral part of the Black Sea Initiative. And if European countries do not want to go down this path, then this means that they do not want to go down the path of peace, end quote, Peskov said last week. And the very last one, Russia-China relations, no threat to other nations, Beijing, April 1st. Home World News. The two countries have simply been pursuing their own, quote-unquote, long-term interests, the Chinese foreign minister has said. And there's a photograph. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi pose for photos before a meeting at the Kremlin on April 1st. The close partnership between Russia and China poses no threat to other nations and cannot be influenced by external forces, Beijing's top diplomat has said during a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi stressed that the two countries have simply been pursuing their own long-term interests, end quote. An annual threat assessment report by U.S. intelligence claimed last week that the relationship between Moscow and Beijing had helped, quote, promote a global counterweight to the United States. Quote, China-Russia relations adhere to non-alignment, non-confrontation, and non-targeting of third parties. They neither pose a threat to any country in the world, nor are they subject to interference and influence from any third party, Wang said as quoted by the Chinese Foreign Ministry. The ties between Moscow and Beijing act as an, quote, an important stabilizing force in a turbulent and changing world, end quote, the diplomat added. I'm going to read a very last one. Wang arrived in Moscow on Sunday for a 3-day visit at the invitation of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The agenda included bilateral ties and global issues, particularly the Ukraine conflict. The diplomat welcomed the discussions between Russia and the U.S. aimed at easing tensions around Ukraine and improving the relations between Moscow and Washington. The 2025 annual threat assessment by the U.S. intelligence agencies claims that Russia and China, along with Iran and North Korea, are collaborating to challenge U.S. interests in the world, quote, by attacking or threatening others in their regions, end quote. According to the report, Beijing has been instrumental in helping Moscow, quote, circumvent sanctions, end quote, and, quote, promote a global counterweight to the United States, end quote. According to Wang Yi, however, being permanent members of the United States Security Council, both China and Russia have special responsibilities for maintaining world peace and development. In February, the Security Council adopted a resolution introduced by the U.S. which called for a swift end to the hostilities between Russia and Ukraine and urged the establishment of a lasting peace between the two nations. Both Russia and China voted in favor of the document. And as I said, this is the very last one I'm going to read today. China hails improved Russia-US relations. The Chinese foreign minister says Moscow and Washington must lead responsibly amid growing global uncertainty. Chinese Foreign Affairs Minister Wang Yi. On the photograph, China has welcomed recent discussions between Russia and the United States aimed at easing tensions and enhancing bilateral relations, according to Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Wang arrived in Moscow on Sunday for a 3-day visit at the invitation of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The agenda includes discussions on bilateral ties and global issues, particularly the Ukraine conflict. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov indicated that President Vladimir Putin is also expected to meet with Wang during his visit. In an interview with RIA Novosti, Wang stated, quote, Russia and the United States have taken the first step toward normalizing relations, which is good for stabilizing the balance of power between major powers and inspires optimism
in a disappointing international situation, end quote. One remarked that in a world facing growing uncertainty, major countries should meet their commitments and play a stabilizing role. One highlighted that both Russia and the US, as permanent members of the UN Security Council, share a responsibility for global peace and should lead efforts to ensure international stability. One said the Ukraine crisis now is in its fourth year, is the biggest geopolitical conflict since the Cold War. Definitely. Definitely, Russia finally did something. He added that China has supported a political solution through a dialogue and negotiations from the start and has backed all efforts to restore peace. He further observed that Putin and US President Donald Trump, quote, have spoken twice by phone. Their team are in contact, and there has been a serious discussion about a political settlement to the Ukraine crisis and improving Russian-American relations. Even if the step toward peace is small, it is constructive and worth taking, end quote. Putin and Trump spoke on the phone on February 12, the first conversation in years. The call was followed by talks in Saudi Arabia by US and Russian officials the following week, where they agreed to work on resolving the Ukraine conflict, reopen embassies, and ease tensions. Subsequent meetings in Istanbul addressed diplomatic funding and restoring direct flights. In a call earlier in March, the leaders agreed to a 30-day pause in strikes on energy infrastructure, though Russia has accused Ukraine of violating the deal. US and Russian delegations also met again in Riyadh to discuss reviving the 2022 Black Sea grain deal. Lavrov praised Trump's team for seeking respectful ties and called relations between the two countries during the tenure of former US President Joe Biden an anomaly. Definitely. Democrats. Democrats just want a war. That's Democrats' business. Oh, I had too much. I'm going to make a discovery here about this phone. I will see if this archive is a one-piece archive, because they are cutting in half an hour.